So today we're going to address the age-old question, should I hire employees or should I hire contractors? And again, with everything I do, every answer I give you, you know it's going to be it depends, right? But I'm going to give you all the factors and criteria that you can be thinking about right now as a business owner so that you can make that right decision for yourself. So I want to go through a couple of the scenarios of when an employee makes sense versus when a contractor makes sense. I'm also going to give you some insight into why I am switching from a team of contractors to a team of employees. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm doing that so that you can benefit from some of my business growth while it's really happening. So number one, let's just go through the difference high level really quick. Employees are folks who get a W-2 from you. They get a paycheck. They may get a salary. They may be part-time or full-time. Keep in mind that employee doesn't mean full-time. Employee just means that you are in an employee-employer relationship based on the amount of control you have as the employer in that relationship. Versus a contractor is when you hire another business owner to do the services for you. So if you think of it this way, bring in a operations manager, for example, under you where they're fully dedicated to you, and maybe they could be part-time, they could be, but they are dedicated to you while they're working for you. They don't have their own business. They're not running their own shop. They are just serving you using your materials, your tools, your processes, your way of doing things and embedded in your culture versus you're hiring, say, a VA or an OBM who runs their own business and they're serving other clients just like you. Okay. So that's really the difference. Contractors will receive a 1099 at the end of the year if they meet the criteria, and employees will receive a W-2. So what is the actual difference? Let's just go through the core difference from a tax standpoint. Okay. In general, broad brush here. In general, a contractor is better for both parties, a contractor relationship from a tax perspective. However, I see a lot of this getting posted on social media that's like, what should I make them or what should they be? It is based on your actual relationship and what you're actually asking them to do. It is not a choice that either one of you gets to make. It's about doing things the legal and compliant way. So what makes somebody a contractor? Well, they have their own business. They have their own way of doing things. They may have multiple clients, their own business card, their own systems, their own team even. And you're just hiring them based on a result that you want. Okay. Based on a result that you want. And then an employee, you're going to be hiring them to do a variety of different tasks based on their job description. But chances are you're going to have more control, more ability to oversee them, more ability to influence them, and more ability to set their schedule or dictate how things are done and what's used to do it, right? So when you have an employee, you're paying, and they are paying payroll taxes in the form of, FICA, FUTA, these things that are on their paycheck. I pay 7.5%, they pay 7.5% as an employee. On the contractor side, I don't pay any payroll taxes. So the employer or the hiring company, I should say, the company, the business benefits from this because I don't have to incur the cost of payroll taxes. However, the contractor will receive the full payment and then they will pay both the employee-employer share. So they're paying 15.3%, right? So now it might be thinking, oh, well, Shannon, wait a minute, don't they gotta get screwed in this? No, because they have the ability to deduct their expenses associated with doing that work. So now they can deduct, the contractor can deduct their home office. The contractor can deduct their vehicle, their office supplies, their computer, their software, etc. The employee cannot. The employee cannot, as of the time of this recording, the employee cannot deduct these expenses. Okay. So overall, the contractor relationship means, well, I can kind of let them do their thing. I can focus on just getting the result that I want. We have this like arm's length distance between us and I just pay them and they get to deduct their expenses. So I'm just basically hiring another business. Easy, right? It's easy. It's administratively easier. And that's what a lot of people do when they first start out. So a lot of folks out there are hiring OBMs, VAs, all of the things, right? Executive assistants, and they're paying them as contractors because these folks have other clients as well. But as you grow and as you develop and as you honestly develop a culture, develop a set of values and principles behind your business, you're going to want more control. You're going to want to have more influence over your team and to really treat them like a team. It's always a little bit strange when you have these kind of like casual dating relationships with all of your team, and they're not really in it for the long haul. And you know that, right? Because you've got all these contractors, and I did too for my first 3-4 years of business. I was all contractors. And all of the contractors, although I love them dearly, had their own businesses with their own objectives, their own goals, right? And I may be part of that vision as their client, but I was never really their boss. I was never really able to influence them to the degree that my business needs to from here on out. So that's why my business is shifting. My business is shifting more into the employee side, and it's worth the cost, I'm telling you, for 2 reasons. Number one, I want more control. And admittedly, I mean, let's just be honest. As business owners, we can be control freaks. Like, I just want more control over when things get done, how they get done, my ability to oversee them, the deadlines I can set for them, knowing that they're accountable by me to hitting those deadlines, as opposed to, please, if you could, if you wouldn't mind getting this done by, no, I want to deliver exceptional value for my clients. So now we are shifting more into that higher degree of influence. The other reason, along with the influence, is culture. I want to find people specifically who are going to embody what we stand for, embody our values, and be able to stand up for our values. When we have these contractors, they have their own set of core values. And while they always typically align at the core level, they're not the exact same values. I can't be asking people to abide by a certain code of conduct or a certain type of ethical value structure that doesn't align with their business. It just wouldn't be fair. So we're shifting more into the employee space for that reason as well. And I want you to give some serious thought to any fear behind hiring an employee, because truth be told, it can feel very stressful and feel like a big commitment. But in reality, it's a couple extra pieces of paperwork, especially if you have an amazing payroll service like Gusto behind you. Hashtag not sponsored. I am not sponsored by Gusto. I just happen to love their service, and I use them as well, along with using them for a lot of my clients. If you have less than, say, 50 employees, it's really perfect, especially for those solo S-Corp owners, because you can go in, you can set up your job description, your job agreements really easily. They actually have a ton of templates for you. And you can go in and onboard your employee, get all the paperwork done digitally. They can digitally sign, especially if you have virtual employees and contractors. It's amazing. So partially because, we have software and tools and companies to help us with this, this was an easy process for me. I'll admit, it doesn't have to be as hard as you're making it out to be. When you have the right support and you ask the right questions, you can hire employees with no problem. And just have to be mindful of, your labor laws in certain states where you're hiring them. And that's where you can get a ton of information from resources like Jackie Koch, who was on this show. She has a company called People Principles. And I'm going to make sure that we link one of her episodes in the show notes, because you want to be learning from her and other professionals like her who run HR and recruiting companies and can tell you where you might be having a few blind spots when it comes to hiring. But overall, in general, hiring can be a pretty seamless process if you know what you're looking for, what you're specifically going to task that person with, how to evaluate them, right? It gives you a lot of empowerment to go through these questions. It gives you a lot of empowerment to really think about, what do I want in an employee? How am I going to measure their performance? How am I going to make sure that they're successful and that we are successful? How am I going to evaluate their goals and make sure they're accomplishing them? I frankly think it's one of the most fulfilling things about being a business owner is creating jobs and being able to help people live their own dreams, live their own goals via working with you and for you. So as we talk about, employees versus contractors, there is no better one. I do recommend, I will say, so you can action this. I recommend that if you're in your first couple of years, contractors are totally fine because you have more results-driven direction. So instead of, I need somebody to be my content manager and to do all these things, you might just need a launch planned or a project done or social media done. It's more of these segmented projects that need to get done. And that's fine. When you're first starting out, you're a solopreneur, you are kind of living on this project to project level, and that's totally fine. But when you get to a certain point, and this is where we hit, where I have the podcast 5 a week, I have social media, I have email campaigns, I have so many different things that I'm building that from a content perspective, including more videos like this one, I needed to have somebody on the team that I'm like, I can fill their time at this point. I have enough of a need to bring someone in to oversee the entire content system. because now we'll have consistency. We'll have that consistent oversight, someone who's going to learn your voice, someone who's going to understand the messaging and really be able to tie it all together. And I'm so looking forward to that when we can bring someone on who's going to become a content manager for Keep What You Earn. So those are just some ideas of how you can leverage employees versus contractors in your business. And I hope that this has provided some guidance for you on which one you're going to be hiring. And just keep in mind, you can always start someone as a contractor and you can hire them on as an employee once you have more than a few projects for them to do. So there is really no right and wrong, no black and white. And I hope that this is going to serve you and that you'll be able to leverage this when you hire your next person on your team.